This video is brought to you by Squarespace.
What's going on, you guys? So today we're going to be reviewing the Keks light meter, which is an external light meter that fits on any cold shoe or hot shoe and gives practically any camera a built-in meter. Now, when I first heard about this meter, I was instantly intrigued by the idea of being able to have a meter on all of my manual film cameras. I think for a lot of people, man, this is going to truly be a game changer. So the way this review is going to go down is we're going to break it up into several different parts. The first part we're going to talk about is what comes in the box, and then we're going to transition over into, some of the specs and how to actually use the light meter. And throughout the video, you're going to hear me talk about my experiences as well as show some sample photographs that I've metered with this light meter right here. At the very end, try to unveil to you guys my final verdict, whether or not I would recommend this meter to my fellow film shooters out there. So without further ado, you guys, let's go ahead and just jump right in. Here it is, the Keks light meter. Alright, so when you first receive the meter in the mail, it's going to come in a nice little black box like this. Now, once you open that up, you're going to lift it up here, and on the backside flap of the top cover, you're going to see this little instruction kind of sheet or sticker. And yeah, it's going to tell you all about how to use the meter itself. Luckily, we will be going over that. Now, it does come with a little unique charging cable, which I would recommend you don't lose because I am not sure what type of port that is right there. And it also comes with a little baggie with a little Allen key as well as 2 extra shoe mounts. So this is going to be huge because on the meter itself, folks, you can actually readjust where the shoe goes to fit different styled cameras. You can unscrew it here on the bottom, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but there on the very bottom there's 3 different positions for where you can put the shoe. And essentially this is going to allow you to mount it in different ways. If you're shooting on a Leica, I would mount it all the way to the right, because if you do mount it onto the middle or the left one, what you'll end up finding out is that it's going to cover your shutter speed. So mounting it all the way to the right here is going to allow you to essentially slip it on the Leica, and it's not going to cover here. It varies on different camera bodies, and so I recommend you play around with it when you first get it in. Now, that's pretty much what comes in the box. Very simple packaging. But now I want to give you guys a quick little tour of the light meter itself. Now, on the very front here, you have a little window, this little small hole, and that's where your meter is going to take its reading from. And on the back side, you have a nice LED display, which is really easy to read as well, as you guys can see here, from aperture on the left to shutter speed right here on the right, and then all the way on the far right here, you're going to have the ISO, which is adjustable. Now on the top, it corresponds kind of with that same setup. On the left side here, you have an up and down to control your aperture to go up and down, and then you have shutter speeds here on the right. And to change your ISO, all you're going to do is you're going to press down the meter button right here, and then you're going to hold down that button as well as an aperture button, and that's going to allow you to change up your ISO. Now, in terms of construction, this meter is made out of aluminum. It has steel screws as well on the bottom, and it has a nice plastic mount. Now, in terms of metering itself, Keks claims that this is a 30-degree average metering off of reflected light, which basically means when you go to a scene, it's going to take a good reading of the highlights as well as the shadows, and it's going to give you an average between both to give you a nice balanced exposure. And what I can say about this is that I think it's very accurate. It's going to do really well with giving you a nice solid balance in between highlights and shadows. We went to Mount Lassen National Park, and I took over the Leica M2 as well as the Keks light meter, and I shot some slide film. The meter actually metered it beautifully. There wasn't any underexposed frames. Everything was nicely exposed, and I couldn't be happier with how the meter performed, at least in this type of scenario. Now, for those of you portrait photographers out there who may be questioning the meter's capability when it comes to the highlights and shadows and whatnot, we went out and shot some nighttime portraits with Cinestill 800T, And again, this is an average metering. I wasn't, metering for his skin tones or whatnot. Literally just clicking the button, metering for the scene, and seeing what it gives us. And I think a meter did pretty well. I think, it did give me that nice balance between the shadow there and being able to retain those highlights for the neon lights behind Deo's head here. And surprisingly, it wasn't leaning towards one way or another. It gave me a really nice balanced metering. And so that's something that I can appreciate about this. And I think that, for people who maybe even just shoot street photography or just like to take pictures of scenes, it's going to work perfectly fine for about 95% of most people.
Now pause. I did say 95% because this is still considered an on-camera meter. It poses some limitations the same way any other built-in light meter would. Now, can you use this meter handheld? Sure. But for 95% of people who use this meter, it's more than likely staying on top of their camera. And also, 95% of you guys watching this right now probably don't have your own online website and just market your photography through social media platforms like Instagram. Although this could be effective when starting out, it could also hold you back. So I would suggest you create your own website that features you and your work professionally. With that said, I'd like to thank our sponsor for today's video, Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Now, when it comes to building a website, there's no one else in the game that makes it easier than Squarespace. There are endless templates and designs that you could use to get the ball rolling, and with the plug-and-play system, it's easy to get your site set up within minutes. But Squarespace just makes it super easy to be able to put products up, to build a portfolio with a couple clicks, and you're ready to go. Head over to squarespace.com/KingJapes or enter promo code KingJapes at checkout for 10% off your first purchase of a domain or website. As always, guys, I'm going to leave links in the description below, which you guys can check out. And go check it out, you guys. Start your own website and set yourself apart. And thank you, Squarespace, for sponsoring today's video.
Now, there are two different modes that you can shoot this meter in, one of them being aperture priority and the other one being shutter priority. And I think this is a great addition for people maybe like me who enjoy aperture priority. How do you do that? It's really easy. You're just going to adjust your aperture if you want to have aperture priority, or if you want to shoot it in shutter priority mode, you're just going to adjust the shutter speed after setting your ISO, of course. Now, the apertures this meter can range from are from f1.0 to f64, and you can even do 1 3-stops increments. Now, in terms of shutter speed, I think this is where it shines as well. It goes from 30 seconds to 1/6400th of a second. But the biggest one for me, man, is the ISO range. So the meter can range from 50 ISO all the way up to, I think it's 8,000 ISO, which is unbelievable because there's no real purpose to shoot 8,000 ISO film unless you're like pushing like HP5 ridiculously to like 6400, but that's 6400. On the low end, you have 50 ISO, which I think is a very good starting point. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the battery life, man, because this is funny. Now, when Keks sent this over to me 3 weeks ago, I knew that it needed a charge. Actually, it says on the box to not operate it until it has a full charge, but knowing me, I'm kind of rebellious, so I went ahead and just started shooting with it. And to be honest with you guys, I have yet to charge it. So it's been 3 weeks of continuous shooting. I think they advertised 20 hours of continuous metering, and I'm pretty sure that means you're gonna have to hold the meter down for 20 hours on a full charge. But for the most part, man, with daily use, I probably go through about 1 to 2 rolls a week, just shooting here and there. And that's not even considering like when I make work for street photography. I probably shot around maybe 8 or 9 rolls in the last 3 weeks with this meter, and I've yet to charge it. So when it comes to battery life, man, just know that it's very reliable, at least from what I can see in the first 3 weeks here. So that pretty much covers all of the specs on the Keks light meter right here. And I want to just talk a little bit now about my personal thoughts on what I think about this meter. Now, first and foremost, I think it does a great job with metering. I have no issues with the metering itself. You can literally meter anything you want with this thing. Now, where I do have issues with comes with this little button here on the back. It's not necessarily an issue, but more of a tip for those of you guys who are thinking of purchasing one of these. Now, when you go back here to click on the meter button, it's going to give you a metering right away. But one thing that I found was that sometimes it lags a little bit. So if you just press that button, it could give you the last meter reading that you had in your previous scene. And so what I would recommend is that you hit it a couple of times, or maybe even hold down that back button, because when you hold it down, what it's doing is it's taking an active metering, and you'll know it's active because you'll hold this down and you can move your camera and the shutter speed is going to change itself. And that's going to be super important for precise metering essentially. So always double check with that back button that you're not just hung up with the same numbers that you had from the last scene. You want to maybe hold it down and get an active reading on it, so it gives you the right and exact reading every single time, the right exposure. Also, the fact that this meter comes in both chrome and black, I think that is crazy cool. Also folks, not to mention the price point on this meter. It's very affordable in terms of external light meters. So the Keks EM-01 light meter comes in at $100, and that's going to give you a lot of bang for buck when it comes to an external light meter. To put it into perspective, you have like the Voigtlander light meter, the VC2 I believe is what it's called, going anywhere between I think $150 to $200. I think it's $200 brand new, and this is half the price of that. And you have other Sekonic handheld light meters and whatnot for far more money. And I'm telling you guys right now, the Keks light meter is one of the best values in film photography. If you have a film camera of any kind, whether your light meter is working or not working, it's worth it to pick this up, because it's going to give you a much better reading than what your internal light meter will give you on some of these older cameras. Now, I don't have all of the details, but right now on the Keks camera's website, the meter is on a pre-order. I'm not sure if it's like a back order or maybe just a pre-order right now, but I'm pretty sure it's due to popular demand, folks. So if you guys can right now, go jump on it. $100 for this light meter. It is a no-brainer. I would 100% recommend it, and I'm gonna use this thing, man, not gonna lie to you guys. So thank you, Keks Camera, for sending a unit over for me to review. I absolutely love it, and it's probably the best light meter, external light meter of course, on the market right now. So pick it up, you guys. I would recommend it. And thank you guys for tuning in, man, for another video. If you guys are brand new to this channel, man, consider hitting that subscribe button down below, and also drop a like, because we have a huge giveaway coming at 100K. More details will come as we get closer, but for the meantime, man, I'm gonna sign out here. Thank you guys again for tuning in. As always, Minolta Gang.